one other thing a lot of people may not be thinking about is just because somebody has negative equity or is in a short sale situation, that doesn't mean the bank's going to do it, because they don't just factor in the fact that the home is worth less than is owed. They factor in what is the ability of the homeowner financially to make up that difference that they're about to lose. If you've got a home that is going to be in a $25,000 or $30,000 short sale to the lender, and that homeowner has $200,000 in the bank, it's going to be tough to convince that lender to do a short sale.
Hey everybody, I'm Mel and I want to welcome you to our video interview where we gather top professional real estate agents and coaches so they can share valuable tips and strategies for agent success. Whether you're a team member, solo agent, new agent, or seasoned professional looking to take your business to the next level, we're here for you. So we hope you like, subscribe, and tap that bell so you get notified with each new video to help you close more deals, help more clients, use systems, and leverage agent talent to grow your own real estate business. Hey everybody, it is Mel with the Mark and Mel Team, eXp Realty, and this is the other half. We have Mark Bonds of the Mark and Mel Team, and we're going to interview Mark Bonds, which is going to be so valuable for people because he's been in the industry over 30 years. He has dealt through several recessions, different kinds of recessions, and different peaks and valleys. And the thing that he really was doing well at after the Great Recession, which I'm very interested in knowing because of certain things, is he helped a lot of people with short sales. And the thing about this is that to me, that's super important. And the reason why, and everybody says, you know, this is not 2008. I know I hear that constantly. It isn't. But over time, we tend to repeat history. And real estate is always cyclical. So it's better to be prepared than not prepared. And as agents, lifting agents, we want to help agents be aware of what could happen. I'm not saying it will, but HELOCs, which are home equity lines of credit, surged in the end of 2022, which means, tells me that people are tapping into their home equity because the values did shoot up. But then we saw them shoot down. They dropped when the interest rates went up. They dropped since last summer in 2022. So what if they have to sell? We do see a lot of people not selling right now. We do see that, and that's why inventory is staying fairly low. We haven't entered spring yet, which usually will pick up in inventory during the spring when people are getting ready to move and they want to be done by summer, at the end of summer, so their kids go to school and everything. But that's a concern to me because this same thing happened towards the end of Great Recession. It was like, this is what actually why people ended up selling short, is because they had taken a lot of loans that were either subprime, HELOCs were done. So they were dipping into their home equity. And when the home equity wasn't there after a decline in prices, if they had to sell for any reason, if they had to sell, then they had to sell short. And I am personally really grateful, Mark, that you have this knowledge to share with agents, because I would not know how to talk with a home seller, especially since you have things to think about, like, isn't my home worth more than that? So now you've got the home seller thinking about maybe overestimating their home sale or not being familiar with the home prices, which we're going to show them, right, with our comparable analysis. But how do you make them not feel like they're losing out? How do you talk with the banks? How do you approach this, Mark? Can you kind of share? Because you know this best. How did you even see signs of that coming? And then how did you approach that and help those home sellers?
Well, first of all, I do not believe for a second that we're moving into a market where there's going to be massive numbers of people that need to sell and don't have enough equity, i.e. have to do a short sale. I'm sure that number is going to go up. There's no doubt about it, simply because even somebody that bought a year ago and put very little down at the very peak of the market, if that person has to sell now, that home is very possibly worth less than they owe, or at least low enough in value that they can't pay all their expenses of closing and net enough to pay off the mortgage, which creates a short sale situation. In fact, one of our team members in Kansas City, by the way, just ran into a client that went to talk about listing their home for sale. Sure enough, they were upside down. It's because they had just bought the home at the peak of the market, and values have come down enough that created that situation. And I don't even know if banks are at this point are even revved up or prepared with short sale experts at the bank or short sale departments, because back after 2006, 2008, all banks had a short sale division where they managed all the short sales, and it was crazy. But anyway, so that possibility exists that somebody could need a short sale. And now, when I was doing short sales, by the way, I started doing short sales back in 1999. I came across the advertising of some other agent whose name I don't even remember, advertising short sales, and that I can help you with your short sale, or I can help you if your property is worth less than you owe. That was his premise of his advertising. And he's the only person I ever saw doing that. So I basically copied his mailers and started sending them out to people. People that have been a notice of foreclosure has been filed against. That's where I marketed to. And most of those at that time, the vast majority were short sales. And I mean, sometimes short by $100,000 or more. Values had gone down so much. But of course, in that short sale business, it grew and grew and grew as we went through the crash that everybody refers to as a crash of 2008. That anyhow, I just don't think we're going to get to the point where they're voluminous. There's going to be a lot of them. Part of the reason is, in fact, I might have given you a different opinion a month or two ago, that the last information we got from the Cromford report, which studies Maricopa County real estate and is just absolutely the best at that, is showing that the number of sales is ticking up a little bit. Just the last 2 months, it started to tick up. Now, just a little bit. And a lot of people think that's because the rates dipped just tiny bit under 6%. There were some like 5.99 such mortgages available, maybe a little lower for 15 years. But those have ticked back up over 6%. So we're about 6.5% like right now. Of course, a lot of it depends on your credit and such. But the other thing is the inventory is going down. It's a little bit lower almost every week. You know, we were up, we had peaked over 20,000 homes on the market. And now we're down. Last time I checked, I haven't checked today, but the last couple of days it was around 15,000. So the inventory is going down. And we've heard reports of multiple offers within our group that we collaborate with. In fact, as you know, we had a listing on the market, put it on the market about 2 weeks ago, and much to our surprise, we got 4 offers on it, and it even sold over list price a little bit, and that's going to be closing at the end of this month. So those things do exist. In fact, the Cromford report, their index shows that much of the Phoenix metro area is in what is now slightly more of a seller's market than a buyer's market. The way they measure that, which quite frankly, I don't fully understand how they measure it, but they're so accurate over the years, I trust them. And so in fact, Mesa, Gilbert, Chandler, I don't have the chart in front of me, but many other communities throughout Phoenix are measured as a seller's market. But a lot of people might think that means that if you're in a seller's market, you can ask whatever you want. or you're going to always get you're going to get multiple offers, you're going to have a bidding war, but that's just not the case. Any home will sell right now if it's priced based on its condition. Okay, any home will sell, and it'll sell very quickly. The challenge we have, and that we're dealing with, we have a client right now, which is a little bit of a challenge, where the values have just come down far more than they were when they peaked, and that's in a community that's an outlying area, which is a little harder hit than closer into town. So the problem is that I see a lot of people are looking at what the value is worth 6 months to a year ago and says, okay, let's list the home for that. But that doesn't exist anymore. That absolutely doesn't exist. You've got to comp it out and determine what it is worth today based on sales, the most recent sales of comparable homes. So that's the biggest challenge for sellers to accept that fact. But the good news is when a seller realizes that it's still they're going to still make $100,000, $200,000 more than they paid for it 2 or 3 or 4 years ago. It's easier to swallow. But those sellers that bought at the peak and, like I said, and very minimal down, have very little equity right now, maybe negative equity in some cases. So
right. We dropped down. The last time I looked at the Crawford report, the median price was down about the similar as a year ago. So, and now we're kind of staying flat because of that surge, which is great. But if we were to get more inventory and people would have to move, they might not have the, they might be in that 40% of home sellers that wouldn't get that. Maybe they bought within the last 2 years, and maybe they wouldn't get what they expected. So it's really key, and it's so hyper local, right? It's like some areas, it's all based on the area you are. And when you think about it, you've got on the outskirt areas, things that would impact you that don't impact a home seller in the inner city, where it's more of a convenience thing, where you're around more hospitals, you're around, there's just more infrastructure. And when you're on the outskirts, not only do you have that infrastructure having to keep up, but you have a large supply of new builds. So, and they're cutting their price to try and get rid of inventory. And so that's going to impact the values of those, like you say, the outliers, people out there.
Oh, yeah, we're experiencing that right now. We've got a client that's in a community that is not selling. It's been lingering on the market for a long, long time. And the vast majority of sales that we've seen since we've been on the market for a couple of months now have been the builder selling homes, the spec homes that they built, and are just offering incentives and pricing for a brand new home that's hard to compete with. So that's a factor. Yeah. By the way, you mentioned the median home price. I actually just saw this morning, according to Crawford report, that in May of 2022, the median price of homes in the Phoenix metro area, Maricopa County, was 400. I believe it was 456. That was the median price. But right now, it's at 415. And I believe they said when you factor in incentives that current sellers are paying to get those buyers, I think they said it was 405 when you factor in the incentive. So typically looks like a median or average of about $10,000 in concessions. And that's something that sellers need to think about as a possibility. I'll be honest with you, I'm a bigger fan of a price reduction than a concession. But if you're in a market where you're likely going to be dealing with buyers with very little down payment and very sensitive to interest rates, the concession, I don't know the percentages, but the concessions, I would think a lot of the concessions being paid right now are being used to buy down the rate, not to pay closing costs. So get that person in a slightly lower rate. So
right. So let me ask you, okay, if you have a seller that And let's say, worst case analysis, we do drop down in value if there is more inventory that comes on the market over the next several months. If we do drop down in value much more, we're going to be into 2021 values, which could like reverse, like everything could get like his people just grabbing up homes again because the values down, it's more affordable. The prices are more affordable.
I don't know. One other thing a lot of people may not be thinking about is just because somebody has negative equity or is in a short sale situation, that doesn't mean the bank's going to do it, because they don't just factor in the fact that the home is worth less than is owed. They factor in what is the ability of the homeowner financially to make up that difference that they're about to lose. If you've got a home that is going to be in a $25,000 or $30,000 short sale to the lender, and that homeowner has $200,000 in the bank, it's going to be tough to convince that lender to do a short sale because they, unless things have changed. I'll be honest, I haven't done a short sale in 10 years.
Yeah, that's
actually take that back. The last short sale we did was in 2016. It's a home that you and I bought.
2016. That's
right.
right.
A short sale.
Yeah.
But unless things have changed and banks' policies are changing in short sales, they're going to evaluate both the property value and the person's ability to pay. So if the person has the ability to pay, back in the day, they wouldn't approve the short sale. I presume that's the same way now. So
yeah, well,
we'll learn more about that as more short sales do come up, which I think they will to some extent.
Yeah, to some extent. Yeah. So so as buyers, we've fixed and flipped over 50 properties combined, and we were not afraid of entering into a short sale. And it was interesting because I've done them before. We even met. I did one too, and but I'd worked for the bank as an appraiser, so I realized this property was sitting here for a year, and it went under contract. Then it fell out of escrow. I knew the bank was ready to do something, and we got an answer, because by that time I think the property had dropped from like 260,000 all the way down to 130,000 by the time that I offered, and I offered full price, 130,000. And I thought, I'm going to get that. And within 2 weeks, I got an answer from the bank, and I got that. It was a mess. So, it just had to have lots of TLC. So, but that's something that, Mark and I have been able to overlook because we know the kind of work we can do to it to bring it back to a wonderful home. It was listed, and the owner was just underwater,
and we came in well below list price, but it was a fair price because it was in very poor condition.
Right.
And interestingly enough, though, we were prepared to sit and wait for 3 or 4 months or more, because that's what our experience with short sales had been, because that's how long banks were taking to do it back the last time we were involved in one. And they approved it in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
In fact, and they said 2 weeks later, they said it's approved. And that was like December 15th, 2015. And they said, you got 2 weeks to close. We'll approve it if you can close before the end of the year. They were really adamant about that.
Yep.
And we managed to do that. So.
And I remember we thought, we don't want to overpay for this, but we want to give a fair price. So let's do a property inspection. And we paid out of our pocket, right, to get that?
That's correct. That's what we did. We had a property inspection done, and we submitted that to the lender, the seller and the lender, for the short sale approval to show them the condition and the things that it needed. And I think that was very helpful. And it needed a new roof too. And we actually got roof bids. And I think the windows were in very poor shape. And I think we had the window bids as well that we submitted. So they had, it justified our price being something like $50,000 below the list. So.
Yep, that's really helpful information for people who want to, if they see those coming up, don't always have to be afraid of them. just be kind of prepared, and call Mark if you want to find out if you've got a seller that is facing that kind of situation, or you have a home buyer that's thinking, well, maybe I wouldn't be afraid to buy something like that and fix it up myself if I got a lower price on something. Call Mark and pick his brain, agents. This is why we're here. We want to give knowledge from our past to help newer agents and agents that haven't had to deal with that. Because like Mark said, this agent actually didn't call Mark because he didn't know he was so familiar with short sales, and he could have probably ended up with the listing.
And back well after, not too long after the 2008 crash, they were offering, I believe the number was $3,000 or $3,500 per person or per family to do a short sale, the sellers. So some sellers would walk away from the home, let it go to foreclosure, rather than go through the whole process of doing a short sale. That's time and effort. They have to put their home on the market. They have to let people show it. So the banks decided it would be wise to incentivize the sellers and give them something to get. So at the completion of the short sale, they get a check for several $1,000s. Kind of moving expenses type thing. And that did help a lot, because there are a lot of people when their house went into foreclosure, they were just going to sit and wait and live in it as long as they could until the bank got around to finally selling it at the foreclosure auction. And they were kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? Apoplectic? No, what is it? They didn't care. They said, I don't care. I'm going to lose a house anyway. I don't care. Screw up my credit. And that incentive did help. That helped a lot.
I could see how that
jump into doing a short sale rather than just let the property go. So,
and there were so many more of them back then that, I would see how they would do that more and more than seeing that it's a bigger loss. So this is really valuable information for agents out there. Like I said, don't hesitate to call Mark. I will put the phone number on the screen so that you can contact him and pick his brain for anything he's done, short sales, foreclosures, auction properties, all of that, fix and flip. So we would just want to be a resource for people out there, because we're not going to see, it's going to be a tough year. I mean, I just saw a report this morning that what was it, 35%, 36% of agents just left the
36%. According to the NAR, 36% have left in the last year, or I don't know when the exact time frame was, but probably from the peak of the market till now.
From the peak
And our friend Jeff Sutherland, on a video he said he was really surprised it wasn't higher than that. And that surprises me too, because in this industry, when it gets a little more difficult, the people that are struggling say, okay, let's go get a job. Let's go get a 9-to-5 job. But, in fact, our personal situation is, ironically, really good. We've been actually quite busy. Yes, our sellers are selling for less than they would have a year ago. But there's also a lot of people that are thinking that if they're thinking of selling, let's do it now before values go down any further. We have a lot of sellers, as you know, that are like that. In fact, for those that are in EXP, Mel and I are going to be, we're having a closing next week that will cap us. We'll cap next week. And this is several months earlier than we've ever capped before. With EXP, since we joined in 2016. So 2018, I'm sorry. So so the business is out there. It's just a little different animal. You have to treat it differently now.
So we're going to wrap it up now. Thank you so much, Mark Bonds. I love this. This was a great interview, and I'm sure it's going to be really helpful for a lot of agents out there. And so we love doing this, you guys. Please like and subscribe and follow our channel for more information and more stuff in the future that you can use to help lots of home buyers and home sellers. And then Mel signing off. We'll see you next time.